here recognizing all the wrestlers
Okay,
tonight.
thank
or
you.
that you're here. That's from as Heartline says, winter break, because it really wasn't spring. Welcome to our March board meeting. We're glad to have you here. I'm going to let Leah start us off today.
All right, if everybody would please stand and pause for a moment of silence. And if you'll turn towards the flag and say the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, board members, I would like to make a slight change to our regular agenda, and I would like to put the spotlight ahead of the director's update, if that would be okay, so our guests don't have to stay for all that, and they're welcome to stay, but they don't have to. And with that, would anyone like to take anything off of the consent agenda? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Charlie?
Second.
Tom, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, very good. Then we will move straight to our spotlight.
All right, we have two spotlights tonight. First off, we're going to start with the boys and girls wrestling teams. I think Mrs. O'Brien is going to introduce, and then we will go from there.
All right, girls, I'm going to have girls come in first.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're in tight quarters. We're going to do a picture. So, do we want them to come behind the board?
Behind the board.
Behind the board.
Great.
We'll go back behind the school board, right here. Yeah.
Come this way. Go to you.
All right, so I just could not be any more thrilled to introduce this group of ladies to you. Actually, I'm going to let Coach Hoskin introduce them in a minute, but just to come today and tell you about our Lady Raider Wrestling program, to talk about an exciting sport, to watch these girls learn a new sport and to see everything they did and the noise they made at the state tournament. Just, I mean, I love the boys and I love all their accomplishments, but to see girls show strength and power and determination was just super powerful for me to see, and I want you guys to know that. I felt very inspired. Female athletics is a big deal to me, and just to see the work you guys put in and the things that you did, I was just super impressed. And I would not want to tussle with any of you. Super proud. But I will say, because of the work they did, all of the work that they did is really a direct result of our incredible coaching staff. And actually, some of you probably know Coach Boskin. He is a staple and an anchor in our wrestling program and in our youth wrestling program. And has just done remarkable things with our wrestling program. But Coach Charette is new, and so I want you to also meet her. Coach Leanne Charette came to us from Central. She's actually, I'm going to say Hall of Fame for Tennessee Tech. Yes, she was an esteemed softball player for Tennessee Tech in the 90s.
Which Central?
Yeah.
We had Knoxville,
Central
McMahon,
High School
Chattanooga?
and Chattanooga Central, yes. So, yeah, there you go, Chattanooga Central. And so Coach Charette joined our PE program this year and gave us a female PE teacher, which has been awesome. She is our assistant wrestling coach and also helps with our softball program as well. So Coach Boskin and Coach Charette, I'm going to let Coach Boskin talk a little bit about the season and our girls real quick.
Yeah, first and foremost, just thanks for the opportunity for these girls to have something to be a part of. Coming into the season, we had one girl that's wrestled ever, and when you go to a new sport, you know, and we set the bar high at Cleveland with the wrestling program. Day one, we had 40 girls come out, and we said we want to win a state title, and these crazy girls believe me. And when I say they believe me, they believed in that goal more than I did probably, and they gave anything and everything I asked them to do. They did it. For 6 months, they committed their life 6 days a week to reaching that goal. And while we didn't reach that goal, we did more than I could have ever asked. They trailblazed the opportunity for girls to come. the opportunity to do something that not even a year ago girls couldn't do. So the future's bright, and it's all them. So I'll let them just go down. Just introduce yourself. I'll let them go down. It'll be a lot easier.
Say what grade you're in as well.
What year you are as well in school.
My name is Madeline, I'm a freshman.
My name is Jaylee and I'm also a freshman.
My name is Taj and I'm a senior.
My name is Tanisha, I'm a senior.
My name is Piper, I'm a freshman.
My name is Brooklyn, I'm a junior.
My name is Corey, I'm a freshman.
My name is Serenity and I'm a junior.
My name is Leah, and I'm a freshman.
My name is Zakara and I'm a sophomore.
My name is Lily, I'm a senior.
My name is Bakaya and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Alice, I'm a senior.
I'm Brianna, I'm a freshman. I'm Anna, I'm a freshman.
So thank you again for giving them.
Tullahoma. Something after that. That was a blast. That was a blast. That was a lot of fun. Great job.
Oh, Bradley also.
Joey,
I saw that in the state, yeah.
Joey, I mean,
That was fun.
Josh, you third in the state?
We got third in the state.
Yeah. Is Hal Taylor out there?
He is.
I think y'all know what's gonna happen this summer, don't you? You wanna tell them what you're gonna do down at the Jones Center, Hal?
Yeah, we're getting ready to start bidding on construction for the girls' locker room. So we'll be building off the girls' locker room. You'll have your own facility back in that corner. We'll be repainting the interior, refurbishing the whole building. So next year, when you look in there, it should all be clean and you should have your own facility to use.
Oh, we gotta do a picture.
Take a picture, so all board members will. Anyone else jump in here too?
Yeah.
Hey, girl, put y'all step forward. We'll stand by.
Great, I love you.
Yeah. If I sit low, is this okay?
Here we go.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Smile. Nice work.
Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you all for doing it.
Y'all have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you for coming tonight.
No pizza this time.
Great, now, sorry.
Still gotta cut away. Can we come and eat burgers?
Good seeing y'all. Thank you for coming.
I don't see him very very often, but he's got his hands full. Okay. Sweet. Okay, and so now I'm going to introduce our boys wrestling program. So Ash, I'll let you lead the charge and you can kind of lead the Hi. All right, so no stranger to recognition. We have our boys wrestling program. And again, just the thing I want to say the most about our wrestling program is just how they represent themselves as young men. We have great students in the classroom. They're fearless and hardworking, incredible leaders. And, you know, if you go to the state tournament and you're walking around the top and you're wearing a Cleveland C, everybody knows who you are, and you can walk with a little more swag, and these guys are a really big part of that. And they've been a part of the program, they've been anchors for our program, and we're just so incredibly proud, and we don't want to take that for granted. You know, I know these guys are the last ones that want to come here for a board meeting recognition. I think Coach actually texted that to me. It was like, the guys don't want to, they're about, like, they want to be on the mat right now. But that is just a true testament to the work that they do and the love that they have for their sport. And again, we're going to talk about our great coaching staff. Coach Joey Knox is our head wrestling coach and has just done a phenomenal job over the past several years. And then we have Jacob Murphy, and Jacob is at Candies Creek, and I was trying to remember the other school you're at. You bounce between, and Mayfield. So he teaches PE at Candies Creek and Mayfield, and then the voice of our wrestling program, Yes, Coach John Weiss does a lot of our live streaming and helps out our program, and obviously he's at Cleveland Middle School. So I'm going to let Coach Knox just take a minute and talk a little bit about their program.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 5th year in a row coming in front of you guys, and I just want to say thank you, obviously, for having us. But like Ms. O'Brien said, winning state titles is a nice feather in the cap, but the biggest thing is that these young men go on to have successful college academic careers. Like some of the things that we're most proud of is, I think last year, I haven't done our GPA this year, but last year was a 3.5 GPA average on the team. We have a college commit to the University of Cornell, Ashton Davis. Mark Miles, which I'm sure you know who he is. He teaches some of the highest level math classes at our school. Says, Joey, I've only taught one person ever in his career of teaching that made it into the Ivy League. I said, oh, who's that? He goes, Ashton Davis. So that just goes to show you, the quality men that we're putting out, not just wrestling, but what we're doing and what we're instilling and the character that we're building in these young men. And for me as a coach, that makes me more proud than winning. So appreciate y'all having us today, but they do a tremendous job in the community, in their classrooms, in their school. So I think that deserves a little bit more recognition than winning, but we appreciate it.
And I was going to say, during the COVID shortage with our custodial staff, came out in the comments one day, and they were out there just cleaning, and they just showed up one day to help pick up the school and support our custodial staff because they were shorthanded, and Coach Knox just does a really great job, and obviously our other assistants, they just do a great job in building quality men.
We need their names.
And we want you to introduce yourselves.
My name's Logan Fowler.
Tell your grade as well, sorry.
I'm a sophomore.
My name is Lucas Zaborski, I'm a freshman.
My name's Chase Walker, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Marlo Laxton, I'm a senior.
I'm Jax Ernest, I'm also a senior.
I'm Cy Fowler, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Billy Ellison, I'm a junior.
I'm David Geraldo, I'm a senior.
Daniel Sims, a junior.
Reggie Tillman, junior.
Hagen Cooper, senior.
I'm Ashton Davis, a senior. So.
All right, you guys want to get back into the pictures?
Yeah.
Board members, come over.
Guys, take a step forward. All right.
Well, I'm not pictures on that. I'm gonna stick right here.
Here's that hill.
Got to get a picture. Basic camera right there.
One, two, three. All right, congratulations.
That's right.
You'll be here. Don't desert us.
All right, maybe see you later.
He does. Well, that's so much fun.
Yep, it is.
All right, Dr. Dyer, I believe we're going to move on to supervisors and
We
principal
are.
and
So you
teachers.
see Dr. Elliott moving up this way, and we're going to recognize and celebrate with our Teachers of the Year, our Principal of the Year, and our Supervisor of the Year now.
All right, so we have several individuals we want to recognize from our staff this year, and this is just a slice of all the great teachers and staff members we have working this year, and we're so proud of everybody. And so we're going to start off with our recognition of our Supervisor of the Year. And this year our Supervisor of the Year is Dr. Joel Barnes, Supervisor of Federal Funds and Professional Development. And Dr. Dyer said the work Dr. Barnes performs each day is often behind the scenes. However, ensuring our federal funds are properly utilized and solidifying our professional development plans to match our strategic objectives is vital to our district success. I appreciate his hard work and attention to the details. So we're proud of Dr. Barnes. What we're going to do is we're going to give him his certificate, and then at the end, do we want him to? We'll have everybody come back up at the end and get a picture. So if you just want to step right back here, and we'll have everybody come up in a moment. Either way. So, all right. The next individual is our Principal of the Year for Cleveland City Schools, and that is Dr. Stephanie Stone, serving at, come on in, Dr. Stone serving at Yates and Ross this year. Dr. Stone is a leader among leaders. Her level of professionalism, care, and desire to make a positive impact on her staff, students, and community is evident in all she does. I appreciate Dr. Stone's down-to-earth approach and her strong work ethic. So, Dr. Stone, and we'll get the picture here. Then now we'll go to our Teachers of the Year, recognized our building level Teachers of the Year, and we'll start off with Brittany Strother. Brittany Strother is a Candies Creek Cherokee Elementary 5th grade teacher. Brittany has been teaching for 12 years. She's been an integral part of the team that opened Candies Creek Cherokee Elementary 3 years ago, helping to build a culture of learning, fun, and success. She works hard to develop authentic, positive relationships with her colleagues and her students, which sets the stage for successful learning experiences for her students. Brittany is an effective and creative educator and a valued member of the Thunderbird team. That's from Miss Irby and the principal. You can just stand right there, that's fine. Our next Teacher of the Year is Ms. Cheryl Matthews. Cheryl Matthews is a teacher at Arnold Memorial, and Mr. Chai says Cheryl Matthews knows what it takes for students to succeed in 5th grade. She continually works to build foundational skills and energize students with new learning. By using multiple strategies, teaching various problem-solving methods, and utilizing technology, students experience significant growth in Cheryl's classroom. So congratulations, Cheryl Matthews. Next up is April Salyer from Blythe Bower Elementary School. Xavier Croft says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." This is the quote that describes our awesome 4th grade teacher, Ms. April Salyer. She not only involves her students in their learning, but also builds valuable relationships with her students and families. She is our Junior Beta Club sponsor and a mentor teacher. She goes out of her way to make everyone feel welcome and part of the Blythe Bower family. Congratulations, April. All right. From Mayfield Elementary, Ms. Morgan Burke. Ms. Morgan Burke, Mr. Stevens says, "It is an honor to be selected from among one's peers," and Ms. Morgan Burke is very deserving of being named as Mayfield's Teacher of the Year 2022. In her 11th year teaching at Mayfield, Ms. Burke prepares engaging lessons for her students and works diligently with her 1st grade colleagues to ensure students are making progress towards benchmarks. We are quite proud of Ms. Burke and appreciate the effort and energy that she brings to Mayfield. Congratulations to Ms. Burke. Next up from E.L. Ross Elementary is Ms. Megan Yates. Megan Yates is an amazing 4th grade teacher who is organized, creative, and always willing to step in and help wherever needed. She cares about her students, and her classroom is one of the most inviting rooms in the building. Ms. Yates knows how to build a strong community with her students, and it is evident in how they care for each other. And that's from Dr. Stones. The next up is Mr. Rob Jenkins from Stewart Elementary School. Mr. Rob Jenkins. Behind here. Also our District Teacher of the Year at the elementary level. As a lifelong Boy Scout, Rob Jenkins lives by the motto, "Be prepared." He puts into action in any feedback received around his teaching practice. The climate of his classroom provides our students with the opportunity to be children, yet learn to foster positive relationships and grow. So congratulations to Mr. Jenkins. And at Yates Primary is Miss Susan Hoops Whitlock. And Stephanie Stone has shared with us. There you go. Congratulations. Susie Whitlock is an amazing 1st grade teacher who cares about the whole child. She is creative, loving, and dedicated to cultivating the future generations in our community. I would be proud and honored for Ms. Whitlock to teach my own children. The community she builds with her students is unparalleled. Congratulations, Ms. Whitlock. All right, moving on to our secondary level group at the middle school. Mr. Rodney Broadnax from Cleveland Middle School. Mr. Rodney Broadnax is a consummate professional who connects with students every day. He understands middle schoolers and is regularly identified by students as a person in the building to whom they feel they can go and find help and support. Mr. Broadnax is middle school gold. And that's from Nat Acciona. All right. Let's give him a hand, even though he's not here. Miss Allie Creel from Cleveland Middle School is our Middle School Teacher of the Year, but also the District Teacher of the Year. Miss Allie Creel is a dedicated teacher for our students who receive special services. She is also a dedicated sponsor of our Beta Club and theater program here at Cleveland Middle School. With advocates like Miss Creel, our students are poised for success, and that comes from Principal Nat Acciona. And our third Teacher of the Year at Cleveland Middle School is Miss Candace Parker. And Miss Candace Parker is a culture changer at CMS who brings out the best in students with her positive attitude and regard for them. Miss Parker may be young in the profession, but she has the tools to be a great teacher for decades to come. So that's from Mr. Acciona, and congratulations, Miss Parker. All right, then on to the high school. Susan Rodriguez from Cleveland High School, also representing as our District Teacher of the Year at the high school level. Ms. Rodriguez is a caring, compassionate teacher who loves her students and her content. She currently teaches Spanish 1 and 2, as well as Spanish 5. She has been instrumental in the growth of our World Languages Department and works hard to develop meaningful lessons for her students, and that's from Ms. O'Brien. Congratulations. Mr. Tom Marino comes from Cleveland High as one of our high school teachers of the year. Mr. Marino brings a ton of energy and dedication to our school. He currently teaches Lead Worthy 1 and 2, as well as personal finance. He delivers instruction in a relatable way and puts forth effort to go above and beyond for his students and our school. And that's from Ms. O'Brien, so congratulations to Mr. Marino. All right, our third Teacher of the Year from Cleveland High School is Mr. Brian DeLoach. Mr. DeLoach has an intense passion for his content and his students. He teaches our Comp 1 and Comp 2 courses in our English department. This year, almost 100 students will earn college English credit due to his outstanding work. And that comes from Ms. O'Brien as well. So congratulations to Mr. DeLoach. And that is the list of all our individuals that we're recognizing tonight for our Teachers of the Year, our Principal of the Year, and Supervisor of the Year. So why don't we have them come around behind the board and we'll get a picture with the group.
Ended up my last
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Paparazzi.
Well, you have to come see our musical this year, so in the middle. So we're going to be Andy this year in May. So at the musical. Be sure that they. Well, make sure I send invitations after kids. So we'll all go get to the invitation. Thank you so much. Are you going to teach? Are you going to eighth grade?
We're going to do those. Oh, director's. Oh, we had to do that.
Come on, dog, keep up.
It's a long one, though. That's why I want to skip it.
Oh, okay.
All right, Dr. Dyer, we're going to do the director's update.
Director's update, okay. We'll pull that up on the screen here. Got a couple of things for you. All right, our first first update is one that we made an announcement today, and I know Autumn is going to get the person we need and his family. So I'll wait just a second and stall.
Yay!
Yeah. Welcome on too.
We need everybody.
So today, it was definitely my honor and pleasure to make the announcement that Bob Pritchard will be the incoming principal at Cleveland High School starting July 1. We had a great panel of candidates for this role. I told the high school faculty today, ranged from California to Louisiana back to Tennessee, and just a good slew of folks. But definitely, I think Bob rose to the top as the best candidate that we had at the school. You know, we had the survey, I had the different focus groups, and I really took that to heart and really tried to listen to what folks had to say and decipher through all that and figure out what is the best plan of action for our high school, take it from being the great school it is today to even a greater school in 3, 4, 5, 6 down the road years. And I know that Bob's going to do a great job of leading the high school and taking us to that next level, just like Ms. O'Brien has done a great job of leading us to the point where we are now and transitioning to her new role down the road. So very exciting day for us. I will say, before I could even get his full name out today, the faculty at the high school jumped out of their seats and gave him a big round of applause, and that was pretty awesome to see. It was good for him too. So I want to first of all congratulate you again, and thanks to your family, you'll all be part of this, as you know. So this is going to be, it was a big day today, but bigger days to come. Starting at 7:45, we'll be on the radio in the morning. So tune in for the first interview going live. So yes, please.
Board members, any comments?
Well, I know I've been in this school with Mr. Pritchard. This is my 4th year now. And he's the type of person that he can form a relationship with every student. I don't think I've met a student that Mr. Pritchard has any sort of bad relationship with. And he's the type of person who can have an amazing friendship but also demand respect. And I think that that's really important coming into this position, that all the students already love him.
Thank you so much.
Others?
I remember seeing him at Mayfield School and watching the kids walk down the hall, and they would put their hand up and he would high five them, you know, and they just had this big grin on their faces. They just loved it. So we're just very glad that you're going to be doing this, and I think he should introduce his family.
Absolutely.
This is my better half, Amanda. This is Anna, Robert, and Sarah. Robert and Sarah, they get to live with me at home and at the high school, and Anna will be up there in a couple of years. It's Robert's senior year, so it'll be.
Do they sing too?
Yes, they do, and Robert's, they're all musicians. They're all really good on guitar.
We won't make you sing tonight.
And Robert's picked up a lot of lead guitar, but Sarah and Anna, they both sing and play guitar as well.
Wonderful. That's great.
Amanda sings, but she won't sing in public. Just for me.
She sings for you.
Just for you.
That's the best.
Charlie?
Well, Dr. Dyer, you know, Dr. Dyer and I, Bob, Cliff East, and Hal Taylor, we always go to away football games. We find a good place to eat. And sometimes he would bail on us, you know, I got to go fishing, I got to go hunting or anything. Autumn, the principal, has to go to every away game, right? I just want to make sure of that now. So he can't bail out. No excuses this time.
Every away game?
Every away game. He's a great guy. I was excited. Cliff Easton even called me today. I said, did what you said. Didn't say anything, you know, but I called him at about 3 o'clock. I think you just made an announcement. I said, is this Mr., what is it, Robert E. Pritchard? I don't talk to you now, Mr. Cogdill and everything, you know. No, he's a great guy. I'm looking forward. I think he'll do a great job.
Thank you. Others? Someone? Well, I would like to say there were a lot of prayers going up for Dr. Dyer making this decision because we understood what an important decision it is for our high school and our community. And so right before, I guess, spring break, maybe Thursday or Friday, Dr. Dyer said, well, I got it narrowed down to 3. And, of course, the school board doesn't get involved in this, so I didn't even want to know who the 3 were. But what I said to him is, I'll be praying for you because whoever bubbles up to the top, I know will be the very best. And so you are the very best out of all the candidates. And congratulations. We're so glad to have you.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you for taking the job. And you all are free to stay or go, whatever you'd like to do, but thank you for being here so we could recognize you tonight.
I promise them I'll take them out to eat.
Okay, well, you're free to take off.
We won't stop you from
Is
that.
You're paying?
No,
You're paying?
Everybody's on, it's on Cliff Easton. I'll get it this time.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, a couple of things, and then we're going to turn it over to Dr. Elliott to bring up our guest presenter tonight. But I wanted to let you know that Wednesday I'll be guiding a group of students at SCOPE, which is the Student Congress on Policies in Education. That's going to be in Nashville this year at Belmont. It's been at MTSU the past few years, but that's a lot of fun with TSBA and working with students all across the state. So that'll be a fun session to be part of, so look forward to that. I don't know the topics yet, but we'll find out that day. And also our first, I think it's our first, Blue Raider military ball is coming up on Saturday, March 26th. I've been asked to be the speaker. The first speaker couldn't make it, so they went with the second speaker. That was me. So I'll be talking about leadership or whatever else I can figure out to talk about that evening. But that should be a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing everybody that evening. At this point, I'm going to bring Dr. Elliott up, and he's going to introduce our speaker who'll be with us tonight and remotely, and we'll talk after that if you have any questions.
In the year of 2019-2020, our system and a lot of individuals began to work on our strategic plan and getting things together and having input come together, and you guys approved in 2020 our 5-year strategic plan. As we developed that and took a look at it, we really wanted to dive deeper into that and look at other ways that we can assess how we're doing and the progress that we're making from year to year. And in doing so, we partnered with NIET, an organization that we have come to grow to learn that it is a very respected organization, and they have a lot of good advice and encouragement and good ideas on ways to monitor and to make progress along the way with our strategic plans. And Ms. Laura Incolod is with us tonight, and she has been working with us over the last couple of years, meeting with us most of the time online. But she has been here in person recently to work with our admin team to share reports and give us feedback. She also has conducted some online sessions with other community individuals as well to get feedback from them. And we're glad that she's here tonight with us via our Zoom link or Google link, whichever it is, and we're glad. And she's going to share with us a little bit of a report of the progress we've been making as our team has come together and worked on meeting some of our initial goals in that strategic plan.
And I will say you have a copy of this at your table as well, so you can follow along. All right, Laura, we'll hand it over to you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all this evening. I wish I could be there in person, but great to be with you nonetheless remotely. But as Dr. Elliott said, my name's Laura Incolod. I'm the co-president at NIET, which is the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching. We're a national nonprofit that works with school districts across the country. We focus on building educator capacity through professional learning, and then we also support school systems with their strategic planning as well. We're based in Nashville, and so Tennessee is a very, it's my home state where I'm based, and it's a very familiar organization or state for our team and our organization. So I'm going to share a little bit today about where we've been with the strategic plan implementation process. As Dr. Elliott said, we began in the fall of 2020, beginning to put together the implementation plan from the great strategic plan that the board adopted previously that school year. So we really took that plan, focused in on goal 1, and which is around student success. I'll highlight that here in a second. And then we really dug into the implementation planning process. So convening stakeholder groups within the district to really detail out all of the elements and milestones that needed to take place in order for the action steps that are a part of the strategic plan to come to fruition. And then what we've worked on over the last year has really been focused around how do we create a process for the district that can be used to check in on progress to make sure that that strategic plan is not just a plan that sits on a shelf and has lofty goals, but is truly a plan of action and a plan of implementation. And how do we come together on a regular basis to take note of progress, adjust
and monitor and make additional next steps that might be needed, or to adjust course along the way. And then ultimately, how do we share out progress with key stakeholders in the community to make sure that everyone is aware of the progress that the district is making and things that are ahead in terms of next steps. So it's my pleasure to be here to share. And as I go throughout, please stop me along the way. I'm happy to answer questions. And I know that Dr. Elliott and Dr. Dyer jump in and add some additional context too. Just pull our slides up quickly. Just a moment to adjust my screen. Oh, that is not it. Apologies. Okay. So as I mentioned, we began our work really focusing on that had been created, and we honed in very closely on goal number 1. So the student success goal that's a part of the strategic plan. And just a couple of elements here to recap for the group. So that goal is really focused on providing excellence and equity in instruction and programs to lead towards student success. So it involves those high quality academic experiences centered around a viable curriculum, effective instructional practices, and purposeful assessments. It also includes a number of action steps that we'll review today that are focused on integrating STEAM within all subject areas. So the science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics focus that the district has. And then finally, it also has a number of action steps that are focused on ensuring that students have that seamless K-12 pathway to explore a variety of different career, college, and military options available to them after graduation. And the guiding statement here highlighted at the bottom of the slide is really the theory of action. So through providing these opportunities, Cleveland City Schools hopes to see that all students will be educated and equipped for success as a productive citizen. A fantastic goal to guide our work and continues to guide our focus as we check in around this goal. So what that check-in process that I mentioned, here's a little bit about what it looks like. So as I mentioned, in the fall and into early 2020, fall of 2020 into early 2021, we really worked to create the implementation plan. And once that implementation plan was in place, we moved into this fall, beginning what we call our check-in process. So that happens each trimester. We've just gone through that for the first time for the fall of 21. And what happens is that we take the 26 action steps that are a part of the Goal 1 strategic plan. District leadership completes what we call a progress report. So they identify key successes, key challenges, and then immediate next steps towards implementing each one of those action steps. They also assign a color rating, and I'll show you what that scale looks like here in just a second. We together review all of that information with district leadership, develop an overall progress report, and then we convene the entire district administrative team in what we call a stock take meeting. So we review with a larger group progress across the goal. We also dig into 1 to 2 topics that need further discussion. So this past February, we dug into topics around English learner professional development and around social and emotional support needs that students might have. So those 2 topics of deeper discussion emerged from the progress report, and we pulled together the entire administrative team to talk about those in detail and to plan for some next steps and provide district leadership with some feedback. And then following the completion of the stock take meeting, that then results in stakeholder communication. So we had the opportunity to share just 2 weeks ago an update with the key stakeholder group around current progress. And then obviously we have the board update here this evening. And then I know the district will be thinking about some other stakeholder updates too. So the design is that at least each trimester, there is an overall update around Goal 1 of the strategic plan. I mentioned as a part of the progress update, and this is what we're going to review in more detail here shortly, that each of the district leaders assigned to one of the 26 action steps, they update key actions that have been completed or key updates, challenges, as well as next steps, and then they assign that overall color rating. So you can see that rating system here. It's It's a 4-point scale from 1, which you can think of as a traffic light red, all the way to a level 4, which is a green. So if we start at the top, things that are rated green means that there's a clear, strong strategy in place. Documented timelines and milestones are in place. There are necessary resources, ownership, time, skills, and support for successful execution. And there's also early indicator data that lets us know that we're making progress towards that action step. And overall, anticipate that that action step will be met without any major adjustments needed. If something's rated a 3 or in yellow, it indicates that there has been strong progress in place, but there might be some minor adjustments that need to be made. A level 2, orange, indicates there were some major adjustments in place. So it might be that the timeline needs to be thought through or better defined. It might need that there need to be additional resources or a clear owner defined. So some type of major update that might take place. And then if something is red, it means it's either unclear, ill-defined, off track. And in some cases, one that you'll hear specifically today, there's been an intentional pause on that particular action step. So that's a quick overview of the progress updates that we went through on each of the 26 action steps under goal number 1, the student success goal. Next, we're going to move into 5 different categories of those action steps, kind of 5 different thematic categories to just provide you with a little bit more detail around how those particular action steps were rated. And then on the next slide, I'll share with you from each category what were some key areas of progress and some challenges and next steps. So the first of the 5 categories focuses on English language arts and math curriculum, assessment, and walkthroughs. So this is a key area of the student success goal that the district has honed in on. It includes, as you can see here on our first action step, implementing a new English language arts curriculum and monitoring and providing professional development on that curriculum. Beginning that process in the very early stages for a math curriculum. So a team has been recently convened to start to investigate and research what might be happening in terms of a new math adoption when the state gets to that timeline here in the next school year. And then also including conducting triannual assessments through SchoolNet for both English language arts and math. And then finally, increasing classroom observations and walkthroughs in English language arts and math, and using that information to help inform and to diagnose what teacher needs might present themselves for additional professional development, coaching to overall improve instructional practices in both English language arts and math. And so as you can see on this slide, all 4 of these action steps are rated at the highest level, meaning that there's a strong plan in place, clear ownership, and necessary time and resources have been dedicated to executing on each of these action steps, and that we're seeing some strong early progress around the effectiveness of these action steps. To hit a couple of highlights around progress, then these were identified by the district leads responsible for each of the action steps. So we can see specifically that elementary English language arts teachers have begun to implement the CKLA curriculum and are working with the professional development department and an outside partner, TNTP, to execute additional professional development as needed. And we're seeing use of assessments and instructional walkthroughs help to strengthen that implementation of the English language arts curriculum. On the challenges front, have seen that with a rigorous math curriculum and rigorous math standards, that one of the challenges that's been seen by the instructional department is just maintaining strong pacing for that math curriculum. There is required to be a real depth of standards and knowledge that are presented to students, so ensuring that pacing is maintained has been a challenge. And then continuing to just differentiate curriculum implementation supports and professional learning to meet the various and diverse needs of teachers is an ongoing area to continue to improve. And then finally, in terms of assessment, one of the other key action steps in that area is making sure that there's sufficient time to allow for that diagnostic testing. And then noting that it is only available for grades 3 through 5 in elementary, so having to look at other data sources to assess progress in the early grades. As we move to the next category, this one's really focused on that seamless transition from K-12 into career. And so you can see here, this focus is on the action steps that are a part of the Portrait of a Graduate that the district has created and begun to implement, and then career exploration. So the first action step is all about that Portrait of a Graduate. So continuing to not only create it, but promote and implement supports that help that Portrait of a Graduate to become enriched and a key part of the Cleveland City Schools experience in all grade levels. You can see here that that one is an action step that's been identified as an area for continued focus, one that's in need of some adjustments. You can see that at the level 2 or the orange level. That's been one that some difficulties just due to other priorities and some of the challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic have kind of delayed that action step a bit. The next action step is around establishing a seamless 6-12 career exploration program. And so one of the highlights on this has been establishing the youth science program for a period of 3 years. And I'll share more about that on the next slide. So that one is proceeding well and is in place and is having the intended outcomes desired. The third action step you see here is around the CAPS program. So establishing that program and getting it off the ground for juniors and seniors. And there's been great progress along that program as well. A desire to continue to increase the number of opportunities offered, but there are many in place already, and a number of students are participating this school year. And then finally, the last action step in this area, and one that the district has identified for continued focus and continued prioritization of, is providing professional development for the district around career pathways. So not just ensuring that those are in place for students, but that educators, counselors, administrators have sufficient information that they can help direct and guide students and continue to integrate that career pathway exploration and opportunities into all grade levels across the district. So I mentioned key progress on this one was the establishment of the youth science program. So that implementation is in place and will be for the next several years. And then also the launch of the CAPS program with more than 50 students participating in that across a number of different work partners in the area. And then finally, challenges. I alluded to a couple of these. So further highlighting the 5 C's from the Portrait of a Graduate at each school level. It's been identified that there's been some strong work done at that in the secondary level, but wanting to think about what does that look like and what are opportunities for that as we move down into the elementary grades. And then finally, aligned to that is continued professional learning on career pathways for educators. And this is one that, once again, has just been a need to prioritize some of the other areas of professional learning, but this is one of the ones identified for a next step moving forward. As we move into the third category overall, this really focuses on some of our special populations of students with disabilities, and English language learners. So you can see here the first 2 action steps are really focused on support for students with disabilities, and some exciting and notable results here. So the first one is focused on increasing the percentage of students with disabilities who participate in a regular education environment. 80% of the day or more, and the district is exceeded its state required goal in this area and is rapidly moving towards that 80% mark, with more than 76% of special education or students with disabilities who are participating in that regular education environment. So that earned the highest rating of a 4 for its progress. The second one is around the participation rate for students with disabilities who are taking the regular statewide assessments, increasing that to 90%, and strong progress has been made in that area as well. The next 3, or the bottom 3 action steps, are all focused around supports for English language learners. And so the first one that you see there, the third on the slide, around EL supports, is around ensuring the culture and the leadership capacity to make sure that all ELs have access to an evidence-based, rigorous instruction on English language development and content standards. And this is one that's been a big priority of the district. Lots of professional development has happened, and a real commitment across the district is seen to supporting the needs of English learners and knowing that the key goal for them is language acquisition. The second one around EL supports is around that professional learning. And so we've seen lots of progress in terms of the types of professional learning that are offered to teachers across the district in various grade levels, content areas. Many after-school sessions have been offered, online sessions have been offered to try to meet the needs that different teachers might have as they try to support the English learners that they have in their classrooms. And then finally, the last one is around increasing support for families and teachers, really trying to connect those literacy practices at school into the home environment. And this is one that you can see has been noted as having some limited progress. That has been primarily due to some of the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, being able to bring families into school and to kind of make those types of home and family connections has been unfortunately limited given the challenges of COVID-19, particularly this fall. So moving forward, a couple of just highlights here. So I noted the number of professional development opportunities. You can see that those have been offered for instructional coaches, as well as educators focusing on co-teaching, elevation strategies, which are designed to specifically support EL students in accessing grade level content. And then you can see here some of the key progress on the goals mentioned around the number of students participating in the regular education setting and engaged in taking the regular education state assessments too. And then finally, that last challenge that I alluded to before, just the lack of in-person and family events. And I know that this is the goal of the district to begin, and I think some of this is already starting to happen, but to begin offering more of those to bring families back into the school and make that connection between home and the school-based literacy environment even stronger. The fourth category is all about STEAM and STEM, and so a number of action steps here representing the district's commitment to being a leading district in terms of its implementation and integration of STEM into all grade levels. So you can see here, and I won't talk about these each individually, but a number of activities around STEM. And so the two that had a slightly lower rating overall were really around, once again, family. The first one around family engagement. So another challenge related to the COVID-19 pandemic and a focus moving forward. And then the second one around that is really integrating STEAM standards into each grade level's pacing guide. So just some more work that needs to be done to really integrate that into all grade levels. But a couple areas of success to highlight. So the continued work to seek STEM designations for all schools. STEM resources has been a key success, being able to build that into ESSER funding to build out those labs and resources for all teachers. And then also continuing the transition of elementary technology teachers as lead STEM instructors has been going well too. So a number of successes to celebrate on the STEM and STEAM front. And you can see here a couple of those that I mentioned again, the upcoming submissions of STEM designation schools to the state, as well as the STEAM labs, and then the limitations around STEM nights, and then a focus moving forward around integrating STEAM content connections for classes, so that becomes a seamless experience for students. And then finally, the last category before we move into perhaps some discussion and questions is really around areas of innovation. So thinking about the BLADE project, the one-to-one initiative for students, virtual school, as well as intervention and additional programming for students to address learning loss. So you can see here that the BLADE project is underway and progress is being made at both the K2 and the 3rd through 5th grade levels. And both of those received a rating of a 3, indicating strong progress with just some minor adjustments needed moving forward. I alluded to earlier that there was one action step where there had been an intentional pause, and this is what you see here in the 3rd row on the screen, really focused around the implementation of the virtual school. So we've all had a lot of experience in the virtual setting due to the pandemic, and the district's focus has really been to bring students back into the building to be able to mitigate learning loss, and as a result, the decision was made to pause on the implementation of the virtual school for the time being. And then speaking of bringing students back into school to really help to kickstart and mitigate any learning losses that they experienced, There's been continued success with the implementation of the RTI program across the district in all schools, as well as additional programs like summer school or summer learning camps, after school programs to help address student learning loss. And some specific progress and successes in that area were that RTI facilitators, new RTI facilitators were trained and began their work this school year. There was the implementation of an after-school program, once again to help address that learning loss, and the hiring of a learning acceleration specialist to oversee that work across the district. And then once again, that notable challenge in this category being the pause of the virtual school option. So my hope is that this gives you a good overview of how we've approached the really intentional process to check in on the progress of the strategic plan. Great discussions have been had to dig into every single one of the action steps, assess progress, plan for next steps, and to communicate transparently about what that process has looked like and what's being planned for the future. And I'm happy to pause here and take any questions that you have about the process or any questions that you have on the specific work for Dr. Elliott or for Dr. Dyer.
Board, have any questions?
I do, if I may. Can we go back to page 11? And it's, you know, you're kind of giving us this information, but I would have liked it to have been a little more specific in that we've surpassed the district goal of what percent? You know, I think we need specifics if you're going to present something to us that, you know, instead of being so vague, and then the next sentence is significantly increase the number of students. Well, what number? You know, did you increase 1 or 50? And to me, as a classroom teacher, that makes a lot of difference. I mean, we can all say, I significantly increased my intake for vanilla ice cream this week. Well, what does that mean? You know, so if you're, I like specifics and I like numbers. So I think we could have gotten a little bit more out of this if we'd have said we increased it by 15 instead of having a hashtag there.
And I can address some of that. We can get you those specific numbers from our special populations group. We have those more specific numbers.
Yeah.
This was just an overview, but yes, I agree. So we can definitely follow up with that information.
Okay, I just.
That makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I wondered about this virtual school. Is this something that we're interested in doing? She says it's on pause.
Well, you remember the virtual school we had the first year dealing with COVID, and then we just didn't have, when we did the registration for the following school year, the interest just wasn't there. I think we had 35, very, very few, not enough to make it financially viable to move on. And really, I haven't seen much of an interest in that, and I've not heard anything.
I was just thinking about homebound students. You know, if we wanted to do something similar to that for our homebound students, because, you know, they have a teacher that comes in that, you know, they're teaching them subjects that are not necessarily their subject, but they're covering all these things. I just wondered if we could consider something like that.
We do have other ways.
We do have a virtual program policy there that allows us to do some flexibility around some of those programs, like you said, under when the teacher is not able to get into the home or something of that nature, where we can do some virtual assistance. And so we do have a little bit of flexibility in it. But as far as a full-fledged virtual school annual program, we haven't pursued that in the last year.
If they could just watch the class, you know, they could continue to participate. I worked with homebound students before, and you have a teacher who's trying to do the chemistry in a foreign language, and that's not their subject. But if they could watch the class and see it, it would make a tremendous difference.
Yeah, and there is a difference between that and the virtual school of Cleveland.
Okay.
So there's two different programs of what you're talking about. You're talking about being able to participate in a class in a virtual setting because you're at home versus all of your courses are virtual through a virtual school that's set up separately, has its own course code or own school number and those kind of things. So it's two really separate items there.
As a teacher, I would not have minded them videoing my class so that the students, you know, could keep up.
Yeah.
And we have had teachers who've been flexible this year to be able to provide that, especially during the height of our COVID-19, but even other illnesses, they've been able to make adjustments and provide some online help and support, and especially when we have our learning management systems and structure in place where students can log on and watch the videos when they're out and some of the lessons that have been prepared for them. So there is a balance there, but as far as the full virtual school for the year, that's what has been put on hold.
Gotcha.
Hopefully that's put on hold for now on.
I know.
mean, with the long
And again, it's in our plan to review annually, such as this, so we can always come back to it and take a look at it.
Yeah, we want the kids in the classroom.
I don't think anybody wants that.
Krista?
Yeah, I just had a question, and it may be that it's a different goal. This one was focusing on goal number 1, correct? You had mentioned the one of the other focus areas for February, or needs additional discussion, was social and emotional needs of students. Would that fall under goal number 2?
That would fall more in a
Okay,
different
I just wanted to make sure,
category,
because
but- Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes with Doug's presentation and Cliff's, just to touch on it a little bit, but yes, that's a different area.
Carolyn?
This has to do with the STEM and STEAM. You said that each school, not all those schools still have a space. How many schools do not have the space for the STEAM program?
The STEAM program, as far as the space is concerned, we're moving into a point where really that is something that should be able to identify and get as we move into this semester. We just haven't had a chance to fully identify that first semester. That did, as you see, the other green areas was our focus area. So we believe there is space. It just hasn't been fully vetted out across every school because of the other priorities that took place the first semester. And that is one thing we're working on this second semester in that. And not only the space, but the equipment and all the supplies that go with it. We did have in ESSER funds, I think it was $75,000 per our schools at the elementary level to be able to use that and access ordering materials to fully set up a room for that. So that's where we are right now in the process. Our principals have had that money available now that ESSER has been approved, and been working with Dr. Barnes and processing those POs and getting those things in order. So that is to come very soon.
How many schools do have the STEAM now?
Well, Blythe Bower is fully vetted out. As you know, the STEAM room down the main hall there as you walk down in Blythe Bower across from the theater. And so it's there. A lot of the technology teachers in all of our elementary schools, we do have a technology classroom available that once we are able to get the supplies, it can be transitioned into what we consider more of a STEAM environment instead of the traditional technology classroom. And that is a goal that we're moving towards. So
a lot of things are underway, of course, waiting on supplies, just like the rest of the world right now.
Is the one at the high school up and running full?
Yeah, the stimulation room off of the media lab, yes, it's up and going. Classes can go in and out of that from different areas and integrate that. So it is up and going. And of course, we have some things going on definitely over at Cleveland Middle School as well. Ms. Dyrick's been very instrumental, along with some of the other teachers over there, in getting that, helping us out there.
When our wonderful students took us on a tour at Stewart the other day when we visited, they showed us the STEAM lab. It was down the classroom, down the hall, down kindergarten.
So this is definitely a work in progress, but we're seeing some growth in that, but it is still some work to be done and some more training to be done, as you saw, and we know that. That's the work as we move through this 5-year plan.
Leah, have you used one at the high school any? Have you been in there?
Yeah, my statistics class goes in there every other Friday. We can use like a virtual reality simulator, or they have a 3D pen where you put just this stick of 3D material, and you can just sit there and draw whatever you want, and just in a 3D type dimension. It's really cool, actually. I really like going in there.
And so one last thing about this is balancing between this location where we have these resources, which is wonderful in each of these individual rooms in the school, but also, as you saw in our goals, is integrating it across all our classrooms into that interdisciplinary process and teaching, so that even some of these techniques and tools can be used just in the general classrooms as well.
I have a question about the SchoolNet testing. Is this more testing that we put on top of benchmark testing and all those other tests that we do?
This is an assessment that is used especially at the third through high school level, at a quarterly and an end of the year check to see the progress that we're making. So it is a test that assesses the students and gives the teachers a report. We looked at the results today. It gives the teacher a real-time report on which standards that the students have mastered and which ones they can go back and say they're struggling with this specific standard, and how can I go back and reteach it prior to the testing. What it is it's a sample TN ready test is what it is. So it is highlighting and showcasing to the students what a test is going to look like when they take the real deal. It's kind of like in high school we give the pre-ACT before the students take the ACT. Well, that's what SchoolNet does for us. It gives the students exposure to TN ready type questions and the standards. It also gives feedback to the teacher. And so that's what SchoolNet is.
So I guess my question is, do we spend so much time testing we don't have time to teach standards?
And that is the
If I'm a
big
teacher,
question.
I want that feedback, of course, to know if my lessons are effective in the classroom. But, we can test them too much, I think.
Yeah, and that is definitely the balance that we're taking a look at, and between, we do have the TN Ready test, or end of course test that we call it, at the K-8 level, especially in the area of reading, but also math. We have our Ready screener testing that is state reported that we are asked to do 3 times a year. We just got done with our mid-year in January, and we'll have one in April again for the end of the year. And then the SchoolNet is one that is more informing the teacher and a support on that, but it is an additional one. We originally, the district and administrators, we discussed about the possibility of doing 3, but we're trying to condense that a little bit and working with our teachers some, but we do still administer that, and that is to, again, like I explained, the SchoolNet. So yes.
And I will say, one of the things that's new this year, and Teachers of the Year were here earlier, I'm going to have a meeting with them coming up in March before we have our retreat, actually, and one of the topics is going to be our overall testing plan.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear directly from the teachers, and we're going to be part of that, and have them give us feedback on what they're seeing that's real-time data from them. Is it good information? How are you using the information? What are you hearing from other teachers? So that'll be good feedback for them.
What teachers are you going to have in this
Teachers
group?
of the Year.
Oh, the Teachers of the Year.
Representing our different schools.
Sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long does it take to take that test? And it is one that the teachers could break down, and after they taught a concept, that they could test it, and it would tell them what they needed to review with the students and go back over?
Yeah, there are a couple of options with the SchoolNet beyond there are 2 main tests. There's a checkpoint test, and Mr. Carr's helped me out because we looked at that again today, and I don't want to make sure I have that right. There's the checkpoint test, which is a smaller test, which is about maybe 40 minutes long, 45 minutes long. And then there's the other one in the spring called the mock interim test by SchoolNet. It's a longer one. It's the one that is almost the length of a TCAP or TN Ready type test. So it is longer, maybe 80 minutes if I remember correctly in that area. So it is a longer
Did
test.
the teacher break it down themselves into smaller portions as she goes over things?
You can create individual assessments related, like formative assessments related to the standards, and go in and select certain key items that you want to look at and break it down into smaller sessions, like 20-minute, 25-minute sessions if you want it specifically at the end of a section when you're looking at maybe 1 or 2 main standards. You could test and assess on that area as well. So there is some flexibility. This is our first year of really trying to be all on board as a district to analyze this and to see the effectiveness of it, because we have had that discussion. Where is the balance between being informed but also taking away from instructional time? And so that is there is a balance there.
Nate?
I think the numbers are important. Obviously, that's Mr. Carr's deal there. But my question is, with this focus group, if they come back and they are pretty strong with the thought of we're over testing, are we prepared to make a change?
Yeah, I don't think we would for the rest of this year, but I think going into next year, we would definitely take that into consideration, because we do want to hear from teachers. We want feedback, or else we wouldn't be having these committee meetings and taking up their time and my time and staff's time to do that. So, a big part of it will be listening to hear what they have to say, and if they feel it's important that we keep doing it, then I'll bring that as something we need to keep doing. But if they feel like it's redundant, then that's something we need to look at as well. Yeah.
Carolyn?
Who's doing the walkthrough observations now?
Walkthrough observations are being conducted by our instructional facilitators and our administrators or principals, some if they have the option to. So I appreciate them marking some time out, along with the district supervisor. So at the elementary level, that would be Ms. Bender, and at the secondary level, Dr. Lang, doing those for the majority of those times.
And then what do you do with it?
The information is gathered collectively as classroom data from that as a whole, and when we take a look at it and we work with our partners like TNTP that we mentioned earlier, and talk about what specific strategy do we need to refocus and work across the district on our next point of action for all our teachers to work specifically on improving one small goal within that area under, let's say, reading instruction. If it's more about focusing on the foundational skills aspect of it and being more diligent in that, then that would be showcased by us walking through and seeing that. It might be more about how instructional strategy move. Is this the right time as a district? Do we need to talk more about specific strategy that works more effectively in teaching reading at this point in time or at a later time? It could be about comprehension. So it gives us a snapshot as a whole district of what's going on in the classroom in general. It's not really teacher focused as individual teacher. It's implementation focused, and then it gives us guidance on professional learning support for our coaches as our instructional coaches go back into the classrooms and work and have those individual one-on-one conversations. We have a focus around a certain area. Like right now, we're focused specifically on comprehension, a small sliver of aspects of comprehension for the remainder of this year at our elementary level. And then our goal is down the road to get into the foundational skills a little bit more. And it just informs us in that regard.
Do you ever work with the individual teacher on what was found for the observation?
Well, what happens, yes, the individual teacher, what happens is our partners and our coaches, you ask who does the walkthroughs. One other individual I mentioned is our partners such as TNTP and Instruction Partners is another organization at the secondary level. They have a professional who comes alongside us being digital lately, virtual. Last 2 weeks ago, we were able to have an individual for the first time come in person and walk around with us. And then they provide feedback on what they're seeing, because it's very valuable, because they get to see many classrooms across the state that they're in, and they know where the bar is, and they're able to say where the next move ought to be to help support the teacher. It's a coaching role, not an evaluative role in that. And so after those conversations, then we debrief, and the instructional coach then has those one-on-one conversations to give feedback with the teacher.
Anybody else? Dr. Dyer?
No, I would just say I thank Laura and her team for the work they do. I thank Jeff and his team and the whole principal crew and administrators and our teachers. Y'all can see, this is a lot.
Yeah.
This is only goal one. The strategic plan is very thorough that you approved several years back, and it contains a lot of information. I know the information we have out for the general public, it's short, it looks good, a little flyer, and it's neat. But in that, there's a lot of meat on the bones that has to be covered, and it takes real work to get it done. And it takes a lot of time on all these folks to make sure that we're staying on target with what we're trying to accomplish. So I appreciate everyone doing that, and it's great to have thought partners like NIET, for example. They don't tell us what to do, but they give us feedback on what we are doing and thinking through how we can be better. But no one is coming in and saying, you got to do these three things right now. that's to our team to decide what to do and to provide that feedback. So that's something I'm really proud of, and I thank them for doing that.
I had one thought. I was thinking, if during the walkthrough you saw a teacher who was doing an exceptional job and getting a really good response from her students, would that teacher be considered maybe for doing an in-service for other teachers?
And we have had that opportunity to encourage teachers to do that. We've also are working on a plan to do utilize some model classrooms as we see these. So yes, definitely.
Is that additional to their existing responsibilities?
The model classroom,
Or will the teacher
sure
bring that additional
that,
work?
and sometimes they'll present a specific strategy or something that they are passionate about that they excel in as an after-school PD session, and so that is addition. But we can give them their PD hour credit for presenting during that hour that they present.
Yep. All right. Longest director's update ever, but that's okay. It was a good session. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate what you signed off.
Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you all. Okay, Dr. Dyer, I think we're going to move on then.
A lot of information there. Okay, well, good.
A lot of information.
Next on the agenda is approval of a bonus. And this is an exciting part of the night. As you're aware, we were recently named a Best for All district, and part of that Best for All designation comes with a grant from the state of Tennessee through ESSER funding. Our grant is $250,000, and we've been approved by the state to convert that into bonuses for employees for the wonderful work they've been doing. And this is something that I very much want to do, but it does take board approval because we are dipping into our funds as well, because it would take an additional, as you can see down on your sheet, funds about $24,039 to make this work. So it would be the grant money of $250,000 plus the extra funds coming from our reserves, which we are in very good shape as far as that goes, so no concern as far as that goes. As you can see, when you look at this would include all employees. So part-time employees, full-time employees, everyone involved in the system, from bus drivers to teacher aides to teachers in the classrooms, principals, and so forth. The bonus amount at the top, I want to point this out, it does look different for various groups because various groups are hit in different ways with taxes and retirement. And we had to do that in order to get to the base amount for the bonus, which is $200.50 for every employee in the system. So even though one group may start at a higher level, when you boil it down to the taxes and retirements and things like that have to come out, it boils down to $200.50 is the net for all employees in the district. So something that we definitely want to do. We want to celebrate our principals, our teachers, all of our staff in various ways. But one way we can do that is cold hard cash, because that helps, and it does show a different level of appreciation for the work being accomplished. So that's my recommendation to the board.
I need a motion first. Okay, Chris says second. Okay, all right.
Just to clarify, I know
Yes.
you said it was everybody,
Right.
but is there anybody in the building that would not be included in this?
No.
No intervention? The
Interventionists are included,
Okay.
teacher assistants, nutrition, anyone who gets a paycheck from Cleveland City Schools,
Including the folks in this building.
including folks in this building.
That's great.
Anybody?
First comment I got, how is Cindy Guerin doing? I know she's not here tonight. I knew
She's doing okay.
The only difference is the 5% for TCRS, right, for teachers? That's the
Right, yeah,
$15
there are certain fees that have to come out due to state or federal regulations, so that's where that comes in. You may see, like I said, the teachers start at $300, where support starts at $285, but there's differences in what has to come out for
TCRS,
state.
that's it, right?
Right.
As long as we include everybody, I'm like Chris
Yeah.
on that.
Anyone who receives a Cleveland City Schools check.
I want to say this is the $250,000 that the school district won, and we won it because of our wonderful staff. And so
Exactly.
I can't think of anybody better to give it to than our wonderful staff. And I know it's $200.50. I wish it was $2,000, but it is what it is, and it's more than we had.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited and delighted to vote for this because I think our employees deserve it. All right, so any more comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the bonus, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Very good. Thank you. Okay. We're going to go to the policies in a minute. And Nate, I believe you're going to do those. Somebody wants you. It's okay, Peggy. It's
I
okay.
did turn it off. All the ringer down.
Nate, you're going to present our policies, I believe, this evening.
Yes, we are looking at policy 5.606, which is regarding political activities. We revisit this. Dr. Elliott and I met and talked about this. And I think this is the particular one that was sent to the TSBA group. And they had an updated policy that they provided, and that is what you see here in the red. This was red, the black strikeout portion, and it just needed some updates. And so when we reached out, when Dr. Elliott reached out, that's what we got, which is what you see there in the red, which is more inclusive. I think the biggest question I had about this particular policy was in the area of it kind of led you to believe you can use technology after school hours, I think it was, as long as for political activities, when in reality you probably shouldn't be using it at all. So the policy update is there. Do you want me to read it word for word?
No, I think the board member they've all read that. And I think, one of the things, our law changed. If y'all remember the sales tax, when we asked to increase the sales tax, and we worked hard for that to pass because we got we split that with the city. We get 1/3 of those funds, and the city gets 2/3 of those funds, and that's what we have used to do so many of our capital improvements. It's amounted to a lot of money every year. And we used our school signs. It was in the summer because the referendum was in August, and so we used our school signs that said vote to support schools, capital money, but that didn't sit well with some people. So they went to Nashville and made a law that we can't use our school signs, although it wasn't for any political candidates nor any party or anything like that. It was just to support the schools. So we do have a little confusion during election times because people want to come and put their signs. I don't know where Hal is. The required amount of feet from the election polling place, but still on school property. And Hal and his crew have to drive around and remove all those signs every election year because they can't be on school property. Campaigning cannot go on school property. And so this policy was in place. The law tightened up the part about the signs so we couldn't use those anymore. But it's a good policy to have. So just wanted y'all to know the history of that.
Well, and I had a question. This would mean that candidates would not be able to have functions or rallies on school property either. Is that correct?
I don't know. To me, that's a really gray area because we see that happen all the time. Political candidates use our schools, city and county, for, I think like the Lincoln Day dinner for the Republican Party is going to be at the CHS Commons. But I think that's okay, isn't it, Dr. Dyer?
The way that it was explained to me from Mr. Cagle, now this is using the old policy, so we'd have to get this, looked at again from Mr. Cagle, is if it's rented, if it's a rented property, then it's just like any other rental we handle where they're paying the same rental amount that, one of the churches has to pay or whatever that uses our buildings. That's one thing, but we cannot let them use it for free. So there is no free rental for any kind of district-owned property. Now, my reading of this was a little bit different, more of what you were talking about earlier, that no one can campaign or put signs up on the property, but I'd have to defer to Mr. Cagle. This is only first reading, so we have till the second reading to get that question answered.
I would definitely want that clarified with some additional language that would help to make that more, because if we're asked, we need to be able to answer.
Sure. Right. Because we did ask when this came up a couple of years ago, I can't remember which group, and we got that answer back from Mr. Cagle, but that's under this current policy, not the new one. So,
Tom?
I think I know the answer to this, but are we employees of Cleveland City Schools because we do get a paycheck from Cleveland City Schools, or is that just money dispersed from Nashville or from somewhere to the bookkeeper and put in its own little category? And
again, I would defer to Mr. Cagle. My understanding is that you're not considered a school employee, though, at this point. Now, that would be my version of that. I'd have to get that through Mr. Cagle to be exact, because
We do get a paycheck.
you do get a paycheck, but it's, my understanding is that you're not considered a Cleveland City Schools employee.
I know we've
But I
never,
would defer to the attorney for that.
yeah.
Peggy?
I wanted a campaign button. Is that considered a sign?
Yeah, you can't wear that in the school. Can't wear those in the school. And that's protection of our teachers and our people in our schools too. We don't want them to be in an awkward place. They can go out after school and do all the campaigning they want, but we don't want it to happen in our school buildings. Okay, so Nate, you want to make a motion to pass this one on first reading?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we consider this first
Okay,
reading.
first reading. A second?
Second.
Okay, Charlie, any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Go ahead, Nate.
All right, so the second policy is, let me pull it back up here, regarding teacher effect data. 5.1141 is the policy number. And really this policy, you know, I had to ask Dr. Elliott what teacher effect data meant. But I brought it up because it has some grammatical errors in it, and it wasn't updated, hasn't been updated for a while. I think it was issued in 1997, and the update was 2001, so it's been a long time. And so I asked to have some grammatical errors corrected, and that's what was made. I think that was sent to one of the staff here for those changes. So.
Okay. Now you want to make the motion for it?
So I make a motion that we move forward with the changes for policy 51141.
A second?
Second.
Second, Tom. Okay, any questions on this one? All right, if not, all those in favor of this one in the first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's okay, it's unanimous. Very good. Thank you, Nate. Appreciate that. All right, we will move forward to our strategic plan focus. Dr.
Yes,
Dyer.
Doug Moore and Cliff Eason will come up and talk about student services and safety.
Okay. PowerPoint up for me there. Thank you. Before we start into the PowerPoint, I do want to talk about our second goal of strategic plan was safe and healthy schools. There really were 4 parts to that goal. We're going to talk about the student services and the safety part of it. One of the goals there had to do with school nutrition, and the other one had to do with the parent responsibility zones. And if you remember, the building the sidewalks around the schools, and that has been coordinating with the city. And doing that, and that's happened. If you travel Key Street and 17th Street, and you've seen all the work down there, they're really putting a lot of down by Mayfield, putting a lot of sidewalks in. But we're going to concentrate tonight on our goal of provide a safe learning environment by balancing wellness, opportunity, and encouragement while supporting academic goals, and to create safe and healthy school climate and cultures by implementing the Capturing Kids' Hearts model and introducing restorative discipline practices within every school building. Now, let's talk about where we were 2 years ago when we were doing this, and then where we are now. We have, you can go to the next slide if you want to. We have implemented Capturing Kids' Hearts into our schools. Every faculty, every school is practicing that. And we also have contracted with Capturing Kids' Hearts to train all our new hires as they come in implementing Capture Kids' Hearts in their curriculum, into their classrooms or whatever area they're in the building. We also have ongoing trainings that we've contracted with Capturing Kids' Hearts to work with our faculties and some PDs as we go forward. There are next steps in Capturing Kids' Hearts, and to be honest, that along with the pandemic has kind of slowed a little bit, but now we're getting back into that this year and going forward. As far as our RTI 2B, if you remember when we had I think it was at the retreat, we talked about this at the retreat, and we talked about 2 years ago, that restorative practices for how we approach discipline. And also, and you can go to the next slide, slide for me, Cody. And the idea of ACEs training, the adverse childhood experiences, and understanding where our students are. As our students come into school, we all know as educators that they come to us with different backgrounds. They come to us with different abilities. They come to us with, just you can kind of go through a lot of things. Is were they read to? Did their parents read to them prior to them going into kindergarten? So when you have a kindergarten class, you have a group of kids there that are at many different levels academically. You also have students that are at many different levels emotionally, socially. So when they come to a structured discipline environment, their approach to it is based on what happens at home. So, a lot of us have been teachers. We know some students understand discipline, they understand structure, and they come from loving, supportive homes. A lot of our students do not. And that's where the ACEs training comes in. Our school counselors in every building have been trained in ACEs, and they also provide training for our faculties in some after-school PDs for ACEs training and understanding those traumatic experiences that students go through. We've been able to do that. Our RTI piece, though, we really haven't been able to do that. We haven't been able to get the training for that. The pandemic hit and it stopped our ability to do that. Our kids went home. We weren't having schools. We all know what happened there. Now, go, Cody. Now, moving forward, where are we now? Where were we, and where are we now? We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do because, and really, the NIAT presentation was really good because you can see the amount of work we're doing academically. We are addressing students' needs with summer school and after-school care, after-school tutoring, and doing those things. We're on top of that. And this is not an issue that's just Cleveland City Schools. This is all through the state, our community, the state, the nation, what we're having to go back and do. But we're also having to go back and address needs of students from an emotional and social standpoint. Our discipline issues this year have been a challenge for some of our schools, and all of our schools. They really have. And they've been a challenge on several different levels. For instance, you have students who are that kindergarten to third grade classification that didn't have any point of reference for what a structured classroom building educational experience was. So they came to us, and I've used this term kind of jokingly, but it has some truth to it. We have some kids that came to us and they just went feral, just like feral cats. They were sent home, and if you circle back to the idea of ACEs, so when we went to the pandemic and we had students that went home, and we did the best we could. Cleveland City Schools did, Bradley County Schools did, Polk County Schools did, all across this community and all across this state. We did the best we could. We responded to a situation the best we could, given the information we had at the time. There was some collateral damage to that. Our students went home, and in some cases, in most cases hopefully, they went home to environments that were supportive, that had expectations, that their kids were going to do the best they could. They were going to make the best out of a bad situation, but they weren't going to lose ground. We sent some kids home, and I say we, I mean the education industry. We sent kids home into situations in which they were being abused, and now we put them home in presence of their abusers all day long. So you can imagine the adverse childhood experiences that came out of that. So now our kids are back at school in structured environments, in disciplined environments, and they're struggling with that. So we are having to address that. So how are we addressing it? A couple of weeks ago, we had a behavior summit, and we had it at Candies Creek, and it was tremendous. It really was, and it brought all of our administrations into one place, and we were able to talk and get some information from some really smart people. Dr. Danielle Scarth, who works for us, and she has helped us tremendously in the area of special services and behavioral intervention with special services, and she spoke to us, and she's tremendous, and she is an asset to our school system, and I hope we can make sure that we are able to keep her. At the same time, Farley Chastain from Park Ridge Valley Hospital spoke to us. His students went through Cleveland City Schools. I had them at Ross when I was principal there. And he talked about the idea of the mental stress and the mental health crisis we're having right now for our students, and understanding what's going on there, and the fact that there are not places for people who are struggling with that to go to. They're just full, and the wait list is long, so we need to have interventions in place in our school system, that we can work with our students on. So what we've been able to do through our ESRA funds, and we've hired 3 social workers. I know you're aware of that, and that's going to be tremendous for us to be able to handle and work with our families and our students' families to try to address some of these issues. So that's going to be tremendous, and we need to work with. We need to go ahead and go forward with our RTI 2B training as soon as we can get that going, and that's a response to intervention, restorative practices, and working with those students. Any questions?
Our social workers, are they on grants, or are they permanent?
They're part of ESSER funds.
ESSER funds.
Okay,
So
I mean,
they're here for 3 years, and then we have to find additional funds, hopefully from the state or federal government, to keep that going.
we need to keep the social workers. I think the mental health, and they're so important, I think.
And we, and partnership. And that was a great thing about the summit that we had. Our partnerships, and I failed to say that also Judge Painter was there from Juvenile Court to talk a little bit about what they're trying to do and some of the things he's doing, the mentoring program he's trying to get started, or he is starting, and Juvenile Court working very closely with both school systems, and knowing that they're, it's. We have students that they're struggling with issues, and they act out, and so we discipline needs. We have to have discipline. We have to have consequences. We have to have those things. We also have to have an understanding of what's happening, so Barrett he addressed that. So we have some great partnerships in the community.
My hope is that this is just the beginning, that this is going to be something that continues to grow, and that we address those immediate needs, but then we are able to extend this to filter through every aspect of our schools, and every student gets to benefit, not just the ones that are in crisis.
Well, and and I'm glad you said that, Krista, because there's some other things that we have that we're working on right now. Not prepared at all to kind of speak about that tonight, because we have to make sure that there's funds to be able to do it. Funds to be able to do it. We're talking to you. But there are some things that we're looking at that I think could be very helpful in that area, because what we're talking about right now a little bit are some really tough nut cases, but there's levels to this. We have those kids that we're seeing, they're acting out. That's visible. We see it. We got to address that. There are kids that are suffering in silence, and they're not getting the attention. They're not creating attention to themselves, but they're suffering in silence, and we need to help those kids too, because they're struggling.
When you're looking at RTI, you have levels 1, 2, and 3. We're dealing with the level 3 kids right now, which, theoretically is usually your, 5% or so, but that 5% can be very difficult to work with, and because it's truly, and a lot of times, true mental health issues that you're working through. And right now, the mental health corporations and people that we work with in that kind of care, they're booked solid.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. So we're trying to work through that, and that's where our social workers will be able to get in here. But when we get to the RTI 2B, and that's something that we'll be, we're looking at partnerships with UT Knoxville because they do this kind of training, and they shut down for a long time. So they're just now kind of getting back on their feet. That's where you start addressing your level 1s and your 2s more, and get more of that training and restorative practices and things, and that will help in those regards as well. But right now, in some ways, we are working in emergency mode and trying to help those level 3 kids get through this school year, learn behavior techniques and academics. But I'm not going to lie, it's a struggle in some cases for some days.
We're very fortunate because when you compare us with these other systems who have been out a whole year, with their students, and we're still having to deal with it. Can you imagine what it is like for those other places, other states that have not been in school at all?
Yeah, I will say our principals, our teachers are doing a tremendous job. I know they leave worn out at the end of the day, and they're doing a great job and keep doing a great job. So I'm proud of the work they do, but it's tough in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
this is
a
a tough
how
year.
much we appreciate them.
Yeah.
Are we doing anything to work with parents of these children?
They do, absolutely, and they're working through juvenile court in different ways to do that, but also the social workers are working through that. So it's not all court-based, but the juvenile court, it's not just the court system. It's not going to lockup or things like that. They have all sorts of interventions and things that they offer as well. It's not part of the court system, but things that we can do. So we're working in a lot of different ways.
How many school psychologists do we have now? Do we have enough?
I don't think we have enough, no, but you can't find them right now.
You cannot?
It's a difficult position to fill.
Yeah. I mean, we are looking, but we
be-
need more.
They could be a big help because you really need to test some of these kids to see if they qualify for additional help.
Yeah.
Well, and just to state the obvious too, this is going to be a long-term problem.
Oh, it
This
is.
isn't something that we're going to be able to fix, and it's the ones that are starting now that we're going to have to continue to work with and help for the next 12 years. So it's something that we'll have to find that funding to be able to keep doing what needs to be done in that area.
Agree.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Moore.
You're welcome. Let's go talk about safety for a second.
Okay, yes.
Kind of switching gears here a little bit. Thank you for letting me come before you today, and hope that I can shed some light on our safety program. I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. I want to talk about our Safe Schools budget for this year and kind of detail that a little bit and answer any questions that you might have about that. And then there's also just some general updates I'd like to share with you in regard to some safety aspects for our system too. Starting with our Safe Schools budget for this year, our allotment was, as you can see there, $118,818. There was some change additionally as well. But so we put together a budget this year of a number of different concerns that our administrators had and staff members had, and just things that we needed to address in general for different schools. So I want to kind of go over that with you briefly. $50,000 of that money we decided to put toward school intercom upgrades. Now this is a multi-year project that we've been working on. Actually, Dr. Raper and Mr. Moore have been working on this for the past couple of years with trying to upgrade intercom systems in all of our schools. We have 3 schools that we are working on for this year that will be fully upgraded by the end of the school year. And then next year we'll actually should be able to finish up that intercom system in one school to where all the schools across the school system will have new equipment as far as their intercoms are concerned. They will be able to not only have new equipment, but there's additional features that comes with that new equipment. And then there's some other safety capabilities that they can put in place also with some additional equipment that would pair up with this.
I was going to say, school intercom systems are much more than a microphone and a bunch of speakers.
Absolutely.
I had no idea what all was involved in school intercoms, but it's a very advanced system.
It really is. It really will surprise you. But there's some exciting things that we're looking at that we want to, once we get the intercom systems in place, we want to add to in the next year or two as well. $28,000 we have devoted to a camera server for Cleveland Middle School. As you know, anytime you add additional cameras and certainly additional high-resolution cameras, more complex cameras and so forth, they have to be supported. And so their server needs to be upgraded. Mr. Raper worked on this a great deal for us as well. They were also running out of room as far as information or data for them to look back on different events that occurred that the cameras captured. And so with putting in a new camera server, that will be able to address those needs for Mr. Accione and the rest of the administrators at Cleveland Middle School. $20,000 we devoted to SRO staffing. Really, that's just a drop in the bucket as far as our SRO budget is concerned, but that's a small amount that we could devote toward the overall budget picture there. Mr. Moore has also written a SRO grant, which provides some additional funds for SRO staffing as well.
How are you doing the SROs now? Is the city doing some and we're doing some?
Half and half.
Correct.
So everybody's got at least one, in the middle school and high school got two, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, and I'm going to touch on that again. Also, here as I move forward, I want to update you a little bit on our SROs and some changes that will be taking place there. $8,000 is devoted to cameras. Every year we try to add new cameras if we can, if the schools need those. But to be honest with you, most of that money is spent to just upgrade cameras. Oftentimes cameras go out throughout the year. Something happens to them, they become damaged. Technology changes so rapidly these days. Usually there's a higher resolution camera that you can put in place that will serve your purposes a little better than what we have in place currently. So every year we need to devote several $1,000s to adding new cameras. And again, that's mostly just replacing old cameras. $5,000 we have allotted for fencing. And there are various fencing needs within a couple of the schools within the system. And I'm not talking about fencing something in regard to encompassing the entire campus. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about fencing that would cover a short span of space that would really provide like a barrier for safety purposes to separate a school or a certain part of the school from something in the community that might provide a safety threat or concern there. So I want you to understand, we're not talking about putting fences around all of our school buildings. That is a possible recommendation in certain communities, but certainly not in ours. $3,500 we have devoted to our Apogee Thrill Share system. And as you all are familiar with, these are funds that are going to our emergency call-out program. Not only is it used for when we have inclement weather to let our community know that we may be closed for the day, but it's also used for just general announcements. If we're having kindergarten registration, for example, that's a good way to communicate with our parents and students and just community in general. $3,000 is devoted to access control. A couple of our schools are wanting to use the scan card system in some of their exterior doors. That's certainly a safety measure that is beneficial. Where if you lose a key, for example, that key is still out in the community somewhere. Could be someone could have it and still have access to your building. If you have a scan card, you can always go into the system and kill that scan card to where it can't be used, even if it's lost and someone has it in their possession. So you can restrict access easier with some of those devices. And so we want to expand that to some degree in different schools. We have $1,318 devoted to signage, and really the state is suggesting that we increase our signage in our entrances and exits, major thoroughfares in the schools, and that's all across our campuses. To be honest with you, some of those signs would include, promoting no drug use allowed on campus, no weapons on campus. They want us to let people know if cameras are in use in our buildings and that sort of thing as well. So that'll be across every school that we'll be doing some of that. As someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Dr. Dyer mentioned earlier, we are struggling, as everyone is, with our vendors with being able to get some of this equipment in place due to supply chain issues. So a lot of this has been ordered, and we're just waiting for them to be able to install the equipment and that kind of thing. So hopefully we'll all be completed by the end of the fiscal year. That's what our aim is, but we don't have any control over some of that. So just to let you know that.
I ordered 6 more radios last year.
with our last year's.
Last year's funds.
Last year's funds.
We understand.
That's just the situation we're in
Yes,
these
it
days,
is.
unfortunately. So. Okay, so moving on just to general safety updates. In regard to our drills, I wanted you to know that all of our schools are doing a great job with keeping up with their safety drills, and these are drills that they do monthly. They do once a semester, one time a year, that sort of thing. They're fire drills, they're intruder drills, they're bus evacuation drills. All of those drills they keep up with and do a great job of staying on top of that. In fact, just this past February, there was a statewide tornado drill, and all the administrators put their schools through this. Everything went really well. I communicated with everyone afterwards to kind of debrief to see what problems we had and that sort of thing. They gave us some good feedback. There's a few things that we're tweaking, as moving forward, but all in all, they felt like everything went really well. They were very pleased with the way their schools and their students responded. Emergency operations plans, something that we are working with the state very closely on to better update and organize our plans. To be honest with you, that's something that has needed some work for a couple of years, and the state is actually asking us to get more specific with each plan for each school, to where it's more specific to that school and not just a general plan that we're using, a cookie cutter plan that we're using across the system. And so they're asking us to do that. They're giving us some guidance and some training in how we can do that. They're also have started providing a free state-supported platform that we can combine all this information in one specific area, where it's easier to access, easily organized, and that sort of thing. The program is called Navigate 360. And it's free to us, it's free to any school system to utilize, and so we have started working with them on that to bring that into our system and get out to our administrators and so forth. Also wanted to talk with you about our latest PD day in February. We worked with the Tennessee School Safety Center, representatives from that area, and asked them to come in and do some training for our staff members. And they did. They came in and provided training for all of our secondary level staff members in Cleveland Middle School and Cleveland High School on averting school violence. That's an area that we really need to be honest with you, improve on in the next couple of years and keep kind of at the forefront of our minds as far as our staff members are concerned. And so that's something we're going to continue to build on and work on in the next couple of years. School safety is something that nobody likes to talk about, and nobody likes to even think about what we need to do as far as plans are concerned and so forth, but it's certainly something that we need to be aware of and not worry about necessarily, but be prepared for. And so that's something we want to do, is make our campuses and our schools more safe, obviously, and so we think that would help. Last thing, Mr. Cogdill, that you mentioned was SRO changes. We have had some SROs that are leaving the police force, unfortunately, some good ones that we're not happy that they're leaving, unfortunately, and going into a different profession. And so just like any other employer out there, Cleveland Police Department is struggling with hiring people, finding people, and that sort of thing. But they will be replacing these folks that are leaving. And with that, though, will come some shifting of people that are on different campuses, and they will be moving some folks around to be a better fit for a particular school. I'm not exactly sure what the plan is yet. They are still working on that and keeping us informed as that develops. But by fall, by the next school year, all that should be developed. They should have everyone hired and in place so that those new people can start in those schools, in those respective schools, and be with them for the coming year.
I know those kids love their SROs.
They do,
so
and they do.
move
We are very blessed. We have a lot of great SROs in our school buildings, as you all are well aware. They just do a fantastic job.
Cleveland City Schools have any input with the police department about the placement of those SROs?
Really, personnel is their decision, the Cleveland Police Department's decision. However, they have allowed us to certainly give some feedback from administrators. Oftentimes contact me and have some information that we could share with Charles Burke, the supervisor there, or different people. And so yes and no. Yes, it's their final decision, or no, it's their final decision, but certainly we can give some input on that as well.
Good.
they're a good partner with us.
They are. They're a great partner.
It was nice to have him here at our board meeting. And
Yes.
see them all, and Sergeant Burke, we met him too.
Absolutely.
So that was
Dr. Dyer, as a former school administrator, the safety of the schools has got to be right there.
Sure.
And when you start doing a budget, we're looking at 118,000.
Well, that's just this is the state budget. This is
Okay.
the state money. There's
This is-
other funds from general that go into this.
Yeah, this
as
is
well.
a grant that we apply for
Okay.
each and every year, and that's just our allotment from the state is $118,000.
What are we doing for safety? How much, do you know what that
I don't know
is?
off the top of my head right now. We'd have to get that from Cindy, but I can tell you we contribute a lot more than that for SROs
Okay.
and
I mean,
different
it
pieces,
needs,
so.
the safety for our kids and
Yeah.
staff, that's got to be right at the top,
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
'Cause, I mean, the things going around this country, I mean, whatever we put in there, if we can increase it a little bit, I think.
Yeah,
just
and
me
we,
personally.
you know, and as far as operations plans, of course, those aren't open to public inspection. That would, if we ever wanted to get into that, that would be a closed session of the board to discuss that kind of thing. But I can tell you they're very solid and very secure,
Good.
and there's a lot of very good plan and training that goes into all these things that have been discussed today.
That, what Cliff put down there across from the baseball field, just it makes it more safe for the kids across the road there.
Mhm. Oh,
Just little, anything we do to make schools and leaving schools, whatever, safe. I mean,
I
that's
agree.
very important.
Cliff, do you get any ESSER funds?
I specifically, for safety,
In this-
have not gotten those funds because we've been able to allocate funds from the state through this safe
But could
safe
we-
schools.
The
There's
ESSER
certainly
funds are already
could.
allocated and approved by the state and by the board, so those are underway right now. But there's funds that come through the general account and also from other areas, the SRO grant, for example, and other places. So we're doing well in our SRO, in our safety programs.
Can we get that number and sent to us sometime after the meeting that Charlie's asking?
Yeah, I don't know how long
Budget
it'd
number.
take, but
That's
I
fine.
can get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could work with Cindy on trying to come up with a kind of a ballpark figure as to what we.
yeah. It could just be a percentage.
But don't, we have some funds, for example, technology funds, Cody, I'm gonna pick on you. I mean, we allocate so much out of our capital
Right.
money for that, and doesn't some of that go to cameras
It
and
does.
and servers?
It does. So it comes
it's
from
kind
different
of
pots.
all
It
different
does.
pots
So
of
we
money,
can pull
not
that together.
just-
So that may take a little time, but we can find that.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be 100% accurate,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
ballpark.
Yeah, it has to be 100%.
We can do that. Julie, get that note. Okay, good.
Thank you, Mr. Eason.
Thank you,
Appreciate
folks.
your
Thank you.
time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so
It's good
much.
stuff.
Miss Leah, we saved the best till last.
All right.
Almost, not quite.
It's been, another busy month over on Raider Drive, even with the week off. We'll start with some things coming up. On March 22nd, seniors will participate in Raider Outreach, which is where they get 4 hours of community service hours required before they graduate from Tennessee Achieves. And while they do that, the juniors will take their free ACT. It will be a normal school day for the sophomores and freshmen. We'll host a free ACT tutoring session on March 15th and 17th for English and math from 3 to 5 p.m. On March 24th, HOSA is having their semi-annual blood drive. You must be 16 to donate, and students ages 16 and 17 must have a permission slip signed by a parent or guardian and returned to Ms. Huff before March 24th. If the student is 18, they do not need a permission slip. Please see Ms. Huff to sign up and get a time slot, or if you have any questions. Also on March 24th, we have a program showcase night. The class of 2026 will visit CHS from 5 to 7 for tours and program information. Also, athletics, fine arts, CTE, clubs, and academic programs will be represented. On March 28th, the Graduates of Distinction reception and ceremony will be taking place. The World Language Department hosted a cultural fair, which was a huge success. They raised over $700 for their department, which was double the amount raised in previous years. Sheriff Lawson came and spoke to our criminal justice 3 students, and they have mock trials coming up, and all employees are welcome to attend. The police department will be on campus for a safety drive-in day on March 30th and 31st. This will be for our criminal justice students. They will set up a driving course in the Science Wing parking lot. Our automotive department hosted their 8th annual competition, and it was a multi-school competition that took place right before spring break. We had a very strong performance. Culinary has also been busy this month. They catered the Raider Scholar Breakfast as well as the automotive competition. They will be catering the Graduate of Distinction reception as well. We also had 3 students, Maddox Pendergrass, Stephanie Seda Haas, and Maddie Morris, take the culinary dual credit test through Chattanooga State, and all 3 passed. JROTC competed at Ridgeland High School in the JROTC Olympics and finished second in PT. They will attend the military ball at the Cleveland Country Club on March 26th, and this will be for the cadets and a guest. And Dr. Dyer mentioned earlier that he's the speaker at that, so I think that'll be really good for our students to hear. And CHS also now has a food pantry creating healthy students. If you know of a student in need, please contact Lisa Wiley at CHS. This is a partnership with Chattanooga Area Food Bank, and we also have snack packs given out weekly to students in need. These are given out each Thursday. This is a partnership between CHS and Wesley Memorial United Methodist Church. This Friday will end our 3rd quarter grading period, and winter sports have wrapped up. The boys basketball team completed their season with a record of 15-7, and they ended their season competing in the regional tournament. Girls basketball also completed the season with a record of 24-9. They ended their season competing in the regional tournament as well, and senior Katie Moore will be continuing her basketball career at the University of Montevallo on a full scholarship playing basketball. The boys wrestling team, as we mentioned before, won individual titles and team titles this year. It is the 5th consecutive year for the team title. Individual winners were Chase Walker, Tito Boyd, and Ashton Davis. Arlo Laxton got 2nd. Zach Boskin, Bentley Ellison, Logan Fowler, and Lucas Simborski all got 3rd. Jax Ernest and Cy Fowler both got 5th. The girls wrestling team finished their season strong, winning 3rd in the state. Piper Fowler won 1st place, and Diane Young finished 2nd. It was a fantastic first season for our girls. Swimming wrapped up with our girls relay team competing in the state meet, and our spring sports have kicked off. This includes baseball, softball, boys soccer, and track and tennis. Renaissance also wrapped up their season. They placed 2nd overall at their last competition, winning the best visual and overall effect while also winning the People's Choice Award. Kalani Estrada won an individual solo competition in Nashville, and they placed at each of their competitions this year. The theater department is working on their spring musical, Freaky Friday, and the musical will take place from April 21st to 24th. Winter Guard has been promoted to Scholastic A class, and they finished 5th out of 15 at their competition in February, and their season is still ongoing. And that is what was going on over on Raven Drive.
But I think there's one more thing. Don't you have that personal announcement about college?
Oh, yeah. I sent in my enrollment deposit at Coastal Carolina University.
All right, yeah. Well, I'll come visit you so we can go to the beach, right?
Oh, yeah.
Conway, is that where it is? Conway,
Yes, sir.
Alberta?
You guys can have the board retreat over at the beach.
There you go. All right.
Now we're talking.
And I think also your major is important of note.
Yeah. I'm majoring in intelligence and national security.
Wow.
Very nice.
Oh, that's pretty. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, very good, Leah. Peggy, you
I've
want to
got a
say
question
something?
for her about the food bank that they have. Do they accept donations?
I would assume so.
Yes, not food donations, but monetary donations, yes. They have a fund at the high school that you could just send it to the high school and designate it for the food bank.
But no canned foods or anything?
They're working through
they
Chattanooga
don't-
Food Bank and through Peerless Road Church. So Peerless Road Church is acting as their agent to be able to purchase all of the food for them to have in the food bank. It's
Okay.
very impressive.
Where do they take who takes up the donations? Where do you make
You can
more
send them to the
donations?
high school.
Just send to the high
You could just
school?
bring it to the bookkeeper or send them there, and Ms. Wiley has an account, so when she comes out of a specific area, they're able to, a specific area, or if they have a family has dietary needs or whatever, it just allows all the flexibility.
I think one of the schools was was collecting things like if you go to a hotel or a motel, you know how they give you soaps and things and shampoo and everything. Do they collect those to give out to students that might need them?
I think everything kind of goes through the
It goes
food bank.
through the food bank because they can buy it.
They can buy it cheaper.
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Leah, and congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll still see you. Got a few more months here. Can't let you go yet. All right, the next item on the agenda is the announcement of the intent to act on Dr. Dyer's contract, and that will be done at the April board meeting. And the law states that we have to give 15 days notice, so this will satisfy that requirement. Do we have anything else, Dr. Dyer, under other? Anybody else have anything? Well, it was a long meeting, and I appreciate it, but we had to get back into the swing of things, and it was a great thing to do after spring break because we were all rested when we got here. So I hope you all have a good evening, and we will adjourn by general consent. Thank you.